Welcome to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a well-rounded, happy, goal-crushing athlete. Every week, myself, sports journalist Molly Herford, and cycling coach and kinesiologist Peter Glassford interview experts and chat through all of your training questions. We're excited to have you along for the ride. Hello. Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well. We've had an action-packed week. Your parents have been up visiting the Golden North here. Golden North in Canada?
That's not a thing we say.
Let's call it that. So that was great to have them up, and we got some work out of your father, which was fantastic. And then we stacked, of course, an enduro mountain bike race into the Sunday as well. So a full week.
Yes, well, you raced the enduro. I was just there with Strong Girl Publishing, Shred Girl stuff, super fun. Really, honestly, I said it yesterday in a post. It's just really fun to see that grassroots cycling, I actually feel like, is almost having like a resurgence where these smaller races are becoming just really more the norm. Like, we're seeing more and more of them, and I think that's so good for the sport.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have Bill Shiken coming on Thursday. Well, so we're going to record it on the Thursday after this podcast comes out. And so if you do listen to this and you're thinking, oh, I have some questions about cyclocross or grassroots cycling or Bill's race DCCX or just cyclocross in general, since he runs CX Hairs, that might be something you want to submit a question. We'd certainly appreciate that. We are going to do a big cyclocross push this year here locally to go with Molly's grassroots racing. We're going to try and hit a lot of the Ontario cyclocross races. So I'll put that in as a bit of a reach out for questions to y'all. And also support of your thought, Molly, that grassroots is going well. And our enduro here locally did really well. Our good friend Kate did most of the work to get this off the ground. We all tried to support her, but she definitely made this event happen, which is, I guess, the fortunate and unfortunate thing about these local races, isn't it? That it really requires one person to really have a dream.
100%.
So good on them, but definitely if you can volunteer anytime. We did have, I should say, as much as Kate really drove this forward and made it happen, we did have actually the volunteer activism. There was 100 people racing, and there was at least 25 people, even if you don't count me and Scott and you and stuff as volunteers. There was, I think, 20 people from the community plus who stood out to do, every one of these segments. There was 8 segments. Everyone had to have a volunteer standing at the post, at least one. There was an aid station, finish line, cleanup, this type of stuff. So pretty amazing, right? But as far as volunteer to participant ratio.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we always say is, especially if you're not someone who has any real desire to race, you can still be so involved with the community just by volunteering at these races. And it's so needed, right, to keep these races going.
Yeah, I mean, I guess expectedly, it was a couple of parents did it. And then who else? I guess it was I saw a couple of friends, our friends and past athletes and clients and current athletes and clients from Waterloo brought up, I think, at least one person who just was a friend who was maybe nervous to try enduro, newer to mountain bike, and then just was, I'll see what it's all about and who are the people, what do they look like, but also stand there and make sure that people tap in on the post when they start or finish their segment.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, we should get into our questions today.
We have 3 great ones today. Yeah, we have Road Worlds as a little preview. We have a question about the Road Worlds here coming to Montreal, which is in Canada, and everyone's coming to Canada for this. I said that in a way that Quebec wants to separate, which is sort of, current events.
I thought that was really more just for those of you who've never heard of Montreal, it is in Canada.
Not that I'm taking a stand, but I said that in a way that made it sound like I was saying it in a way I didn't mean to say it in that way.
Oh boy, this show just got really political.
Well, this is mostly for my friend and client Peter who loves a good Canadian joke. So there you go. So we have Road World's question. We have a question about helmet pads, Stinky helmet pads at that. And then we have a final question, late edition. Was this on a late edition? No, this was our main question. This is the summer motivation dip, the mid-season burnout, whatever you want to call it. That'll be our more meatier question for the day, hopefully, if I don't start rambling about Canadian politics.
You're rambling already, dear. So
Here we go.
Okay. Let's talk stinky helmet pads. What's the best way to maintain a helmet? Let's face it, good helmet is not cheap, and we want them to last. However, the summer funky smells, they set in. And replacing those foam pads in a helmet is actually really pricey. So this is something I have actually written articles about in the past, because I've written articles about everything. And
our site is extensive, and you do usually at least twice a year, you do a spring clean out or a fall whatever or summer. Did you clean your stinky gear, throw out your old stinky gear? So you could follow us on Instagram and perhaps our website, RSS feed or something to sort of get those yearly reminders or twice yearly reminders.
Yeah, give or
at least.
take. Yeah. Well, or sign up for our newsletter, etc. But TLDR, three basic ways to clean your helmet.
I was going to say, there's probably a fourth. You just buy a new helmet every year, I guess. But
yeah, but still, I think even if you buy a new helmet, like at some point during the
Stinky
summer,
day one.
It's going to happen. So especially if you happen to be someone who sweats a lot, if you have kind of longer hair and it's just...
Curious if longer hair people have stinkier helmets than like a bald person. That's a study I want to see.
Well, I think it's actually people with my length hair have the biggest trouble, where I have like short hair, but it's like longer.
Yeah.
So I can't pull it back in a ponytail to kind of keep it like a little bit off of the helmet. It's all just like getting into the helmet. Like it's like Pogacha. You always see little tufts of hair sticking out of his helmet.
So I guess like at one point, like your helmet I like to pressure wash the thing. So I'll sometimes even use the suds and water before I wash the bike, and then I'll pressure wash the helmets, and it gets all the dirt off the outside and then most of the stuff. And you said you thought dish soap might even be better than washing machine, because my first thing was, let's throw this pad, take it out, throw it in the washing machine. And you said, well, that could be okay.
I would not do that. You can throw it in the washing machine, but you have to put it in like one of those lingerie washing bags, because almost all foam helmets, they're not like the foam isn't sewn together. There's a cheap piece of like crappy fabric that's covering the foam, but it's glued. And the Velcro is glued onto that. So if you throw it in the washing machine, the Velcro is going to attach to whatever else in the washing machine and potentially, pill your sweaters or even pill your cycling, like your chamois and stuff. And you don't want that. But if you put it in a lingerie bag, then it just keeps it from getting just kind of pulled apart. So that's option one. Option two, I actually prefer, is just doing it in the kitchen sink, a little bit of dish soap, just give it a gentle hand wash and then rinse it out and just leave it to dry. Like, just very simple. Mm-hmm. Your method of pressure washing, you just wash your helmet while you're washing your bike. Totally works, but it does tend to not extend, the opposite of extend the life of these helmets.
Especially if you're aggressive, like you want to not like just take the highest pressure washer and like put it right up to it. But your helmet pads actually recently just exploded when I did that. But then we also discovered your helmet was getting on the older side of things. And they do say, I think it's like 3 years is what they say. I don't know how often people do it, and I'm not going to give you any judgment one way or the other, but I hit my helmet, we'll say, off of stuff frequent enough that I end up doing it probably at least a year every year. It's just I probably damage a helmet a year.
Right. Whereas I haven't really ridden that much in the last few years. So my helmet is like getting older, and the foam and the pads do wear out.
So I thought maybe if your pads wear out, is in your case, we could have said, let's go research how to buy whatever year your helmet was and get the pads. But it's also maybe just a reminder that like if your pads are either so stinky or so destroyed that it might also just be like your helmet maybe just is a few seasons too old now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you can't get the funky smell out of it, or the pads are actually just starting to like come apart, probably worth considering a new helmet. If it is a newer helmet and you just cannot get the funky smell out with dish soap alone, soak it in like a water vinegar solution and then do the dish soap.
That's what my mom would always do, was all my clothes always in vinegar. So maybe we need to resume that a little bit.
We do that. Yeah. Like every year.
Everyone's looking out for me. Nice.
Yeah. No, most years when our kits start getting a little too funky, I usually pour some vinegar in with the wash and do a bonus cycle with that. Yeah. And you can also sprinkle a little bit of baking soda in, and that'll kind of deodorize it.
Okay. And it just occurs to me, our book, Becoming a Consummate Athlete, not just about the training. It does have a lot of these things about like spring cleaning, and I don't know how deep we go into like cleaning of garb, but there's a little bit of that stuff.
Yeah, I think we do talk about definitely laundry.
Okay. Do you want to do mid-season burnout or motivation waning, or do you want to do road worlds?
We're going to touch road worlds first, then we're going to get into our big question.
Okay.
So no politics, Glassford. All right. So this person writes in, "Hi, I'm a big fan of the podcast. Thank you. So this is not really the focus of the show, but do you have any info or advice for someone who's thinking about going to Montreal to watch the Elite Road Race Championships? They're thinking about maybe going to ride their bike up Mont Royal where the race is. And they just want to know what a real Canadian has to say. First of all, thank you for thinking that I count as a real Canadian. Actually, I don't know. This question might be more at Peter, but
Yeah.
I am technically.
So I would say like we are going. We have one young athlete going for the junior women's race. So we're sort of focused on that. And then you have a couple of things during the week as well. And then we're actually going to depart before the elite women and men's race likely. We have a couple of friends that want us to, to stick around and have offered to, but we'll see because we're also trying to hit that cyclocross race, of course, on the Sunday.
As usual.
Back in Ontario. So we may leave.
So our thought with doing that, in addition to the fact that like, yes, the junior racer is a young woman who you coach. So we obviously want to be there for that. Honestly, to me, the races themselves are actually like not the most fun part of a event like Worlds, because to be totally honest, Road Worlds, you're really not going to see a lot of the race. Like, you're actually probably going to get better coverage watching it on TV versus being roadside.
Which is honestly true of every single sport. Like, if you watch baseball or you watch a marathon 100%. Running race or you watch, like, Supercross. Like, I remember going so excited to go see Supercross, like, motorcycle racing. I was like, it's so much better on TV.
So there is that. So in my opinion, I was like, oh, if we go during the week, we actually might get to see more and be part of more, like, because some riders are like hosting events or at sponsor events or just honestly out riding and hanging out and doing signings and stuff like that. So really, I think it's actually better to be there a couple days before the actual races themselves. That said, still a great time. There's always really cool energy around these races. It is really fun to be, especially in North America, it's really fun to get to go to a cycling race and be surrounded by other cycling fans because, let's be honest, in the US and in Canada, we are in a minority, the people who absolutely adore cycling. So to be surrounded by people who are just screaming and so excited is really cool. So definitely worth it. There's actually still, we just booked our place, so it's still reasonable to get accommodation, although it is pricier on the weekend. But the biggest thing here is he said he wanted to ride Mount Royal. I would actually plan to extend your trip a couple days after the race.
Because this person, I think, was going to do the elite races on the weekend. So yeah, maybe they could even get like a cheap accommodation for Sunday night. And then stick around Montreal. And certainly there's some good riding. Like, it is city riding, but there's paths, and Mont Royal is a really cool loop to do. You can do, and your thought was like they'd probably open it up immediately after the men's race.
Literally the second it's over, those roads are going to, be open again. Yep. So it's actually going to be the best time to ride. I don't think there's really great opportunities to ride it beforehand and actually like truly enjoy it.
Right. The Wednesday does have an event, and I'll put the link to, there's like a Montreal and then 2026.org is the website, and they have a event on Wednesday where you can ride Mont Royal at least. I don't think it's the whole course. And then the Canadian Cycling Magazine has a good sort of summary of the course, so you can get those sort of key details. But yeah, my idea would be to see that, and then the Jacques Villeneuve racetrack, I think, is also part of the course, but is also worth riding even if it's not part of the course. But it's sort of a car racetrack you can like actually ride around usually, but this week would be probably very restricted. But if you could maybe stay for the Monday, I imagine it'll be open back up. So
yeah. Cool. So if I was planning on doing this, I would come up early Saturday, and I would probably plan to just stay through Tuesday and do some riding.
And then I guess it strikes me the other alternative, this person's coming up from like the US, like northern New York. And so they could also hit something like around Bromont or any of these areas where there's like some great rail trails, some great road as well, and certainly good mountain biking. So that would be the other option. If Montreal's just a zoo and you want to get in and out for one or both of the races on the weekend, then just go somewhere else out in the countryside. There's lots of great riding between the US and Montreal.
Absolutely. And I think they had specified that they wanted to be there for the men's elite race. I would highly recommend the women's elite race as well, partially because there are a lot of North Americans, so Canadian and American women, who have a very good chance of doing very well, which means the crowds are going to be absolutely bonkers for the women's race. Mm-hmm. So if you want to watch really, really fun racing, highly recommend the women's race, just because we have so many women who could very easily, I mean, we literally have a Canadian current world champion.
That's right.
So It's going to be wild. So excited. Okay.
Excellent. Well, we'll perhaps see people there. If you do see us, maybe with a loud wiener dog, or you see us walking around, definitely like shout out and say hello. We always like to meet people.
Pre-apologies for the dramatic wiener dog.
Okay, so quick ad from our friends over at Payable. This is a great way to collect funds in a Google form. This is actually how we did the registration for this Enduro event on the past weekend. We got even a bit of waivers integrated into this, a little high-tech work. But at its simplest, this is just a way that you can get paid in the Google form. You don't need to chase people looking for payments. They just pay in the form along with their, in this case, the category and their name. And that's sort of where now we can run a race.
Yes, and bonus, it didn't require you creating a whole new website, registration system, all that kind of stuff for this race. It was just, 10 minutes in a Google form with the add-on, and you suddenly had race registration. I realize all of that was much more complicated with everything else with the race, but at least the registration didn't have to be a complicated bit.
Yeah. So what I would say is everyone could check out, we have a link there. You can check out some templates. You can get a little bit of a discount on your first couple, months, really. So you can check that out and see if you like it and if it works for your use case.
All right. That is payableapps.com/athlete, and we'll include a link in the show notes.
Okay. The big
Meat and potatoes. Midsummer burnout, motivation waning in August. It's funny because as you came to me with this question, I was like, well, the good news is my body just decides when it's time to take this mid-season break. But I think this is a really common one. So do you want to give the context?
Yeah. So, there's usually when we do these questions, it's not one person. So if someone feels targeted or like, hey, I phoned that guy and talked about it, it's not, I don't usually take one person's question. It's usually when there's a clustering and when it's the time of year, right? I think as Molly said, we all feel this at some point of the year, especially if you're racing a lot, or a lot of the people I've been talking to, it's actually not because their training or their racing went poorly. It's that life is, getting busy. Maybe there's a project coming up, or the kids are going back to school, or both.
Maybe you've been covering the Tour de France and the Tour de France Femmes, and then your parents came here the same day that the Tour de France Femmes was ending. While
running multiple small businesses. And doing home renos is always thrown in there for almost every case I see. So if you're doing home renos and you're feeling a little burnt come the end of August, and maybe you've been doing some racing or training since January or for years before without a break, these are the things we want to check. So it is normal. And so what I often will say is, okay, well, let's step back. Is there events amazing? Are you burning out before your event, or have you actually just sort of started adding little events because it's summer? And you don't have to do that. I often say often in July, I would stop racing. Partially, you would have something on the calendar, or there's been 10 years ago, we got married in August. It is our anniversary. If anyone has ideas, let me know.
We've got 2 days from the airing of this episode. I have to be clear. I haven't gotten you anything.
To the wire. This is this is what men have to deal with.
Rough go.
All these expectations. All right. Well, we've thrown politics and some sort of sexism into this.
Back to mid-season burnout.
Other Pete's going to love this. So there we go. So we are going to have this. So let's say sometimes we just you can just enjoy riding, and we call this a maintenance phase. A lot of times we'll be back in the gym doing strength. It's not that we're stopping training in almost any of these cases. If it's a true burnout, overtraining syndrome, yes, but it is very rarely that situation. And that becomes down more to why are you not taking rest days? Why are you not eating? Why are you there's all these things, right?
I actually do. You know what? I'm going to make the case for not a week off, but a few days off if you are feeling this, only because I recently kind of had to, I currently had to take a week off, legs doing some weird stuff, whatever. And I will say the amount that I miss running is so elevated right now. And I had kind of been in that, I would say, mentally, I was in kind of that motivation slump of just just another day, another training session, whatever. And the amount that I'm so excited to get back to it now. Sometimes you need to put something away to miss it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's always good advice. The first time you start seeing multiple days, it's okay to have a day where you're tired and you don't need to take that day off. That's a common misconception. You can go and do the ride. But then usually that should be followed very soon by a lower intensity or a easier day or probably an off day. And so if you're finding like you're just like not getting back and every day is a sad face and like high perceived exertion, maybe you're seeing a depressed heart rate, maybe you're seeing lower numbers, you're not seeing progress in things, then that would be a sign of like even just a few days rest. And this is why we do, like, I have a couple people, and they're the people who end up with burnout who like, they just don't, I don't need a rest day, I don't need off weeks. And it's like, okay, for sure you don't, like, you can be a snowflake, but like sometimes it's just good to have this in, and then that way we can say, okay, and then we'll get back on top of it. And it's not just the body recovery or the mental recovery, it's also like life like needs time to do stuff, right? And so if we just sort of like let that undulate, then we can generally persist. But sometimes we do end up with a lot of life stuff going on. And that's what I often see in these calls is it's just like, yeah, you have like a really exciting project at work, and like that should get time. Those are the phases, the seasons of the year, right? And we can allow those things to happen. And I guess to your point, you can take a couple days rest to get back on top of it feeling good. And then again, we can go to more of what we might call even base, but you could call it a preparation phase or an off season where we start saying, okay, we want to be a bit more general in our training. We want to, if we haven't been strength training, ease back into strength training. And these need not be hour-long workouts. They can be 20-minute workouts.
Well, and I think that actually is a good time to, whether you're consulting with a coach or you actually are working with a coach, like be honest with the coach and let them know kind of where your feelings are. But it's actually one of the better times to have a coach, in my opinion, because I would say like it's sometimes hard to know when to do that for yourself and to know what that balance of maintaining versus like pushing or letting stuff slip, right? Because especially, we've talked about this a bunch of times, especially we're talking mainly to masters riders here. We're not really talking to the youth or like the people that are really pushing it and trying to go pro or whatever. This is more for the people that are doing other things, right? Riding is really the fun thing that they're doing. I think it's hard to, how do I put this? You lose fitness real quick at our age, I think. So you do want to make sure that you are maintaining, not kind of completely backsliding if you are in one of these busy phases. And I don't think it takes a lot to maintain, but sometimes it's very helpful to have someone telling you exactly what that looks like.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's wise. Yeah, and I think that's, again, on the front end, that's why we take the somewhat programmed rest days and rest weeks, is to try and avoid like a big period of like we need to really back off. But again, I think like there is that fear that like, oh, we lose everything really quick because we're old. I don't know that that's like entirely true, but like you certainly need to be careful taking like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks off. Like I do think that that's like, that, but that's true for everyone. But like maybe when you're younger, like it's easier to get back going, and maybe it doesn't, whatever. You're just like, you have the youthful energy and stuff to get back going. And maybe you're just also fitter, right? Like I think the other reality is that like as we get older, we don't have, like it's just not as high usually, depending on who you are, but that's often probably the case too. So yeah, I think that's the idea, is that we want to get back to good general training, and that can be fun too, right? Like it's a little different. It's quick strength workout. It's maybe we're easing back into running or hiking or rucking or all these other sports too, right? And that has a mental benefit to it as well.
Yeah, and we actually are the run club that my friend Karen and I run. We actually did pop-up yoga the other morning where we had a yoga instructor come do like an outdoor yoga class in the morning. And honestly, that one was really interesting to me because it kind of reminded me, oh, I actually like this sort of slower, flowier, like gentle yoga, and I do not take time for it ever these days. I have my yoga routine I do in the morning, but it's more high intensity yoga, I guess.
Yeah, it made me remember that I need to do some mobility. Speaking about getting older, yeah, I definitely felt some aches and pains that I
is that why it looks like you've been interpretive dancing on the floor in the living room every evening now?
Well, that's my usual, but yeah, just like, yeah, some of the stuff I was just like, oh, haven't done that in a while. Okay,
look. Sorry, I'm going to say it. You should never open a class with Happy Baby. Not when it's a bunch of runners. We were all having a rough go.
Yeah. So that's that. So I think it's, very normal to have a bit of this slump, and you just want to catch it before. And I think to your point too, like this is a good time to get objective feedback, whether that is starting into coaching might be something, sometimes that's tough if it is for a busy reason. But sometimes, like you say, it is like when we push harder, even just with our coaching levels, we sort of have 3 levels like every coach has. And the lowest level isn't necessarily like the person who's the lowest level of athlete. It's just like if someone's very experienced at sport, I would say I'm in this boat where it's like I'm not really pushing to do anything different than I've ever done. I sort of just like do in sport, like I push in other areas of my life, but I sort of think about sport as like, I just want to keep doing the thing I like to do. And my schedule is very routine. So like that level of coaching. But then if I was a type A, executive with a bunch of kids and I wanted to do a new Ironman, but I'd never done an Ironman, this is like busy schedule, like stacked back to back to back with ambitious goals. So when we have busy times with big goals, that's where like you want to really have someone engaged, right? And really like involved in your programming. So it can be very individualized, right? And like hopefully optimized as well. So there's that, but then also just talking to someone on the phone, right? Which could be me or a sports psych, or sometimes it could be an RD even can like help you with some of the fueling stuff. If the burnout, almost always there's like something that probably would help from that perspective as well, right?
For sure. Yeah. Cool. Well, hopefully that helps cure a little bit of burnout. I know that's a pretty short answer and a relatively short episode, but you know what? I have a summer art camp to get to. Thank you very much.
That's right. Shred Girls, the theater play is coming.
It's true. This Friday. Speaking of busy summer schedules and stuff, I feel like for people that were like, oh, we're not going to go anywhere or do anything this summer, our summer has gotten pretty jam-packed, but all like really nice community stuff, which is very cool and a departure from our norm, and I love it. So, all right, there you have it. Keep the questions coming. We have a couple really fun interviews coming up as well, and a lot of good feedback actually from the episode we had with Dr. Nigel Stevens last week, talking about heart health and athletes. And I think we may actually even have to do a follow-up episode on that. We've gotten so much feedback on it. So keep the questions coming. Happy training, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. If you want to hear more training, racing, and endurance sport advice, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at consummateathlete.com for a weekly dose of inspiration and advice straight to your inbox.